Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing super well wherever you are in the world and that you are doing what you find life giving. Today, my guest is an old friend I've known for 15, nearly 20 years. Lyra is an artist, first and foremost, and has done really incredible public installations and public sculptures. And she's also a teacher, a mother of two, and very recently has become a divorce doula. So somebody that helps people navigate the intricacies of getting divorced. Lyra is a dear friend and extremely wise and compassionate. And this conversation meandered through art, and we talked about kids, and we talked about obviously marriage and divorce and how people could best navigate that. So I found this conversation really intriguing and useful, and also sad, but also with a whole lot of hope by the end of it. So I hope you enjoy this, and please also send this to people that you think would be able to find this helpful. Thank you. And here is me and Lyra. Hi, Lyra. Thank you so much for coming and visiting and being on the podcast today. It's so great to see you, and thank you so much for doing this. And I know you're really nervous, but you don't need to be nervous. It's all fine. We're just gonna have a good long conversation about deep and beautiful and meaningful things. Remind me. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember now. Where did we meet?
I think it's about almost 20 years ago. I think I was still very young.
Yeah,
In a
yeah.
bar.
In a bar. Yeah, we
You,
did.
yeah, yeah. So you started
We
a
met in the
community in
bar.
a bar on a Sunday morning, and
Yeah. Mm.
and it was just such a meaningful experience, and we did so many um, things as families together, which was interesting. We took a taxi to this inner city, and we went for hikes, and so I think we met there, like third place.
Oh,
Yes, yes, at third
yeah.
place.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so it's been a while.
I remember that now. Yeah, it's been a while. Like third place, just for everybody listening, third place was a church that we founded or planted in 2006, I think. And then I
Mm,
led that for about 10, 11 years. And it started in a bar. Like I think the first or the second venue was a bar, like a proper steak, egg and chips kind of dodgy bar.
yeah.
And then we were all young when we started, and we all started having kids, and then we had to do something with the kids, so we had to figure something out, and then we started this thing called Epic, which
Oh
stood for
yes.
it's called Epic, yeah, and it stood for experiential, participatory, image driven, and communal, like this. And then we created these, like
Mm,
taking a taxi into a township with all the kids and going on these hikes and
yeah.
creating this experiential
Yeah.
learning. Yeah, we have some crazy
Mm.
shit.
Yeah, it
That's
was so
awesome.
much fun.
So
And it's
yeah.
stuff the kids actually remember up to now, so it's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh wow. That's amazing. Okay, Lira, tell me, where do you find yourself today? Where do you find yourself right now in your life?
Okay, so I at the moment I'm an artist. So I work with sculpture and painting and public art as well. But I am also a divorce doula. So I support women going through divorce. And it doesn't matter if you're early in your separation or if you've been divorced for 10 years and you are struggling to find your way. Um, so I am providing support and just walking the road with you in this process. So that's where I am now, and I'm also finding my way and my rhythm. Um, I just completed my master's degree in visual arts, and I'm working from home. So it's very interesting, everything that is happening, and um, yeah, just where I find myself at the moment is a place of exploration and see where life is going.
Where your life is going. So that's really interesting for me. Like I mean, I know some of your art, and the reason I asked you to be on the show was to talk about the divorce doula thing, because that's really weird and interesting and cool. And like we said before we started recording, you said something like, "This is never what I thought was going to happen. Like that this is what I'm going to do with my life,
Yeah,
right?" So,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if you like track back a little, what did you want to be when you grew up? You grew up in on a farm,
I grew up on a
no?
farm. Yes, in a countryside area in a town called Dallarywil. And then when I was about 13, my father started farming. So he was a first generation farmer, and both his parents, um, uh, uh, they can't hear and they can't speak. So and my father grew up in a house with both their parents, and um, he started farming when he was 40 years old. So my life on the countryside um, really influenced the way I thought about life and the way I saw things. And I think um, when I grew up, I was about 10 years old, and the teacher gave us a task. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I have to write this down, and I've got no reference of like what should I be. Um,
Yeah.
and my mom said, just go through a book and look at pictures and see what you want to be. And I found like this picture of uh, women holding kids. And I said, I'll be a mom. I'll just be a mom. Can I just go out now and play? And my mom was like, what? You want to be a mother? And then they rode that wave for so long that I started believing that was my calling. But
This was a
um,
calling.
I know that I sat and I was drawing and I knew I wanted to be an artist. But um, I think growing up in a small town, your reference of the female in a occupation is a mother. So that was my reference
Mm.
point. And now
Yeah.
that I look back, I know like I wanted to be an artist, but that was not like, cannot be an artist.
Not
Um,
accepted.
not accepted. And it was very strange also for my parents when I said I wanted to study art. So but they got to it and started supporting me in doing
Yeah.
that. But I think when I was younger, I've always had a passion for people and for community and um, just bringing people together. And it's amazing actually how your life um, you know what you want to be, and that kind of fulfills the road are walking on. Or
Mm.
if you really open yourself to the possibilities of really living a life that you want to live, then I think it kind of drives it to that in that way. And yeah, you eventually
Yeah.
become who you have to or want to be. Yeah.
That I've that's really interesting. Like if we can like talk about that a little bit more. Do you think like so this show is mainly about like how people can find their way, or how people found their way, and then how other people can find their
Mm.
way through the fog. And that's really interesting. Like, do you think like there's a like how do you if you lean into something and you feel like I'm called for this, or I am destined for this, or this is my talent? Like that's really always an interesting conversation for me, because do you? And I find myself struggling with this often. Like, do I create the future that I want, or do I lean into where the river is flowing already, or is there some sort of tension between the two, or is one right and the other one wrong, or do you just trust the flow? Because it feels I have a big issue
Mm.
with trust, and it's like I don't know if I can
Mm.
trust that the river is going to take me to the right place. Maybe I end up in some
Yeah.
dodgy sprite somewhere, and I don't want to be there. Um,
You'll never.
what do you think? Do you do you think which do you think it is? Do you kind of lean into your destiny, or do you create the future that
Mm,
you want?
I believe you create the future that you want. As you know, the book, The Alchemist,
Oh
by
yeah, yeah,
Paulo,
yeah. Yeah, very
yeah,
popular and famous book.
I knew, yeah. Yeah, so a very popular book. So he, at one stage, the young boy is with an old man, and the old man says, "Do you know what the greatest lie in the world is?" And the boy says, I think he says, "No, okay." But in any case, and it says, "It's this, that at some point in our lives we lose control uh, of what is happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate, and that is the world's greatest lie." And I relate to that so much because I really believe that you come in a point in your life, or you have certain points in your life where it's like, okay, stop. Now I have to reevaluate. And then you have to decide, okay, where do I want this to go? And I think then the river flows, but you have to kind of get onto the boat and go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have to take it in the right direction. But life, I really believe that it's not controlled by fate, it's controlled by what you decide. So you create it.
Yeah. So deciding to be an artist, but you're a mother as well, though. So that did happen.
Yeah, I'm a mother as well. It did happen.
Yeah. It happened anyway.
Yeah.
And then, but you decided to
Yeah.
be an artist. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a
Yes.
little bit about
Absolutely.
your, I know there's one well-known artwork. I think people in Pretoria will know your one well-known artwork that sits in Magnolia Dal. Is that the park? And
Yes.
then where's the other
Yeah.
one? There's two.
Pretoria Art Museum. Yes.
Pretoria Art Museum. Yeah, that's the giant
Yeah.
megaphone with the red and white
Yes.
stripes.
Yes.
Cool. Can you tell us more about that work?
Yeah. So my work is very influenced by providing a platform for the public to have a voice and communication. And so I created these two huge megaphones in 2018. It was a year after, or during my separation from my ex-husband, I had to write a proposal for a public artwork. And I just sat and I just started thinking, what do I want to say? And I realized that there's a communication barrier between culture groups in Pretoria and South Africa, and I want these megaphones to be a symbol of a platform for the voice of the people to stand there and to just speak and to perform. And if there's artists that needs a platform to perform, they can stand inside these giant megaphones and they can just sing or do slam poetry or so I did
Yeah.
that with the intention of providing a voice for the public, but in the process I realized that it was such a big symbol for my voice and for me,
Oh yeah.
for myself to be heard. And so my work is a lot about just providing that outing for what do you want to say and who are you, and for people to listen to each other. So so the megaphones it's called Megaphone Me. And it's just an amazing platform for the public to have a voice.
I love that, and I love the. I mean, I've seen that artwork, not physically, only in pictures. Though I've never been there physically.
Mm,
But
you have to go. It's really nice.
yeah, I have to go and stand there and like do a poem, like a slam
You
poem or
have
something.
to. Yes,
There's a
please.
and it's interesting that you. I mean, this happened. So when did you separate from your ex-husband? 2017, 2018.
2017. Actually, end of
Yeah.
2016, 2017. Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
then that artwork was created the year after.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, did you at the time think, like, make, because to me, like looking backwards, I can see like this is like obviously connected. Like it's like you leave
Yeah.
and then you create this artwork where you need to shout or like have a voice or like say
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
And did you at the
Yeah.
time see the connection? Or did you go like, oh,
Not at
I
all.
just want my voice heard?
Yeah,
Not at
I was
all.
just like,
Wow.
the brief was not at all. The brief was create a interactive public artwork for the city of Tshwane. So that's what I did, and I was like, okay, it need I I sat in various locations, and I just realized there's a need for people to speak to each other. People are just walking and walking, and no one is talking, and it's different communities, different suburbs, and creating that symbolic connection of speak to each other, have a voice. And then only when the artworks were up the day of the unveiling, I stood there and I was like, uh, oh my goodness, this is, I created this for my voice. For
Yeah.
I actually wanted to say something, and I wanted it to be heard. And yeah, so it's
Yeah.
incredible that you can that art can be such a vessel for actually for a message, or for what is inside of
Mm.
you, né? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's just fascinating to me how often, and I've found this in my own life as well. We we act out things that we don't know sort of consciously yet. Like we act in
Totally.
certain ways. I'm struggling to
Yeah.
think of an example, but it's like in this way, like acting, creating this work whilst going through a
Mm,
divorce, and then which is
mm.
actually what you needed, and it's this weird. And I
Yeah.
wonder
Yeah.
often where that comes from. It's like I think there was a book I read it years ago called Art and Physics, and then it talks
Mm.
about how every art movement precedes a similar discovery in physics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go
Yeah.
from the Impressionists and how it aligns, like art is always one step ahead of
Totally.
science in a way that it
Yes.
understands light and movement, and it's
Yes.
fascinating to read it. And then the author
Yeah.
was, he said, well, if you think about the way a human grows up, we understand images long before we understand words.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
we know the image of a, this is the image of a bottle or a fruit, or like I
Yeah.
understand that's food long before I know that this
Mm.
is called an apple
Yeah.
or this is called milk, or
Yeah.
like the words come
Yeah.
later. So images always come first and then words later.
Mm.
That's really
Yeah.
fascinating. I love
It's
that.
fascinating because like last year I did a whole project with post boxes and uh, placing these old red pillar post boxes uh, that's in the city, and using that with questions to the public. So there would be a question like, dear future self, I hope you live in a country where, and then you complete this and post it into the post box. And so I created this idea, and that was part of my master's degree. And then one morning I sat and I write every morning at 5 o'clock. I get up and I start writing. So I was writing just about this concept that I have, and all of a sudden I realized, but when I was a, 7, 8 years old, we had this brick wall in our house, and inside the wall there were openings, and I was the postmaster. So my friends stood
Oh
on the
yeah.
one side of the wall, I stood on the other side of the wall, and they had to write letters and post it into these openings. And then it was secret, or it was something that you you don't know how to say, and then you can write it down, and the
Yeah.
postmaster, me, took the letters, and then I posted it to the person that was supposed to receive it. And there's another, it's that was in my subconscious, and it's just amazing how these things
Yeah.
connect to each other, and just yeah, it lies there and it shimmers, and then
Yeah.
they can, something can become of
That's
it.
really, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you think, I mean, if we can go a level deeper, do you
Mm.
think that do you think at which point does somebody know, or does somebody realize that their marriage is not going to work anymore? Do they know it before they know it? Like, is there some, like almost like a signal, like in a similar way that you understand an image before you understand a word, you create an artwork intuitively without realizing where it's coming from? Do you think sometimes people know that their marriage is over before they actually know it consciously?
Know it? Yes, I do. I believe it's at the point where you realize that um, you are not there anymore. That you've lost, you've lost you, and and I'm not just talking about um, the day-to-day things of kids and a job, and you have to maintain this. But I think if you sit in a space with the person you are supposed to tell the story with, and there's just, you are not there anymore, you are not part of that story anymore, I think there's,
Yeah.
you can kind of tap into that, and then you have to, the realization of it comes later on. But yeah,
Yeah.
does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does make sense. I was wondering if there were sort of earlier, even earlier signals that you can say, like acting in a certain way, or maybe it's just acting not present, that you can detect, or that people tend to do before they actually even realize that they're not in it anymore.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, because I can't really say how someone else would perceive it. But
Yeah.
I think if a relationship is destructive, or if it's abusive, and yeah, I think these early warning signs is always there. You just choose not to see that small things, or maybe it's big things,
Yeah.
and you are just so. I know with myself, I was so determined on the story that I'm writing, and in my head about uh, a marriage with kids and a partner that supports you, and uh, the the whole idea of that I kind of um I missed the, how can I say, I missed the warning signs. And I think
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to be aware of that as well. But it's that losing yourself kind of before before you actually see. I see it. I don't know. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. And like you believe so much in that story. I mean, you committed to being a mom when you were like 7 years old. So this is like a really big, it's
Yeah.
like a really big narrative and really big, I think, like, this is what I'm
Yeah.
doing. This is what I'm doing with my life, even though that may have been a little joke or just a way to get out of the project in school. But it's something that's like so deeply ingrained. It's like, this is what I want. This is who I am. I'm a mother and I'm a wife. And this is the picture that I have. And then
Yeah.
it sort of blinds you to what is actually happening, right? Do I?
Totally. And yeah, and I think also the idea, the construct of it, and the society we live in, to you are raised that, or the society I was raised in was, um, you are a mother and you have to um, be a wife, and that was the
Yeah,
society. And I think I was a bit too wild for that, but I was told this is
yeah.
what how it should be. So I believed that,
How
and
it should be.
then I went in search for that. I created that, uh,
Yeah,
and the sad thing is that it didn't work. It just, yeah, it it was destructive, and I think that's the sadness behind it, or the grief behind it as well.
yeah,
No.
yeah. That's and I often wonder. It's like we were talking. It's funny how this in on this show we often talk about marriage, but and how in Afrikaans culture, because we're both Afrikaans, actually all raised Afrikaans, is like being married is very much still a thing, like that it's
Yeah,
expected, and this is part of the road, for better or worse, and
for
that
better
sort
or
of that
worse.
is part of it, and yeah, for better or worse, and it's an interesting thought because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of the people that still, I believe in marriage, and I'm always like, people should get married, but then things don't always work out as they should, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Well, how do,
And
like, I
um,
mean,
hmm,
yeah. No,
no,
I
what
was
I
just
just
thinking
want to
like how,
say, uh,
go, it's fine.
so if you are married, like I work a lot with people that's also going through separation, and it's not just a marriage, because marriage is on paper, but if you commit to someone for 20 years and you separate, it's the same grief, it's the same uh, um, loss and rebuild of a life that 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 you have to recreate. So uh, the marriage is just the paper, and it's there's a lot of legal stuff, but if you separate it as well, it's also a lot of legal stuff. So
Mm,
it's not necessarily the marriage thing, but we were raised in as an in the Afrikaans culture, and I agree with you that you have to get married. And yeah, I don't believe that's necessarily the only path to being committed
mm.
and to live a life with someone that really fulfills your who you are. So yeah.
Do you think that's the goal of oh, let me ask it in this way. What is the goal of a marriage or of a relationship?
Um, I think to accept each other exactly like you are. I've seen so many times with relationships that works and that that there's a respect for each other, is that to really accepting that other person
Mm,
and to seeing them for who they are, and um, totally, you do you and I do me, and I like the way you are. And um,
yeah.
I I I always think like I am with my partner or the person I'm in a relationship with because of the way that he makes me feel, and because of the way I make him feel. So, and I can only
Mm,
make him um, feel worthy if I accept him exactly like he wants to be. So,
yeah.
if a friend of ours actually had an uh, amazing thing that he said, and he was like, if you marry someone, or if you choose to be in a relationship with someone, you have to be willing to become that person. And I thought it was
Oh wow.
so profound, because you have to see that person across from you and think, I enjoy you so much that I am willing to become you. And I know there's life has its tweaks, and you're like, hey, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. And but then you have to see the core kind of the person you are walking this road with, and
Yeah.
you should be able to become that person. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Like
No, I love
I
that as
want
well.
to. I will only be in a relationship or in a marriage with somebody that I'm prepared to become.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. I like that. And I suppose then the
Mm,
reverse is true. Like if I don't want to become this
yes,
person anymore, then
exactly.
that's the, I suppose, the beginning of the end, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Mm.
tell me, at sort of at which point do people come to you as a divorce doula?
So it's usually the people I work with is usually in the early stages of they decided to get divorced and or to separate, and uh, they are struggling with grief and with finding a new routine in their lives,
Mm,
um, and just to understand the process of what is happening, uh, because I've seen so many times, and I know from experience as well, you go into survival mode and then you miss, and you can miss 3 years of your life because you are
Oh, yeah.
constantly thinking about the grief and the guilt, and I call it the grief, the guilt, and the focusing on gorillas, because you are so
The what?
focusing on
The
gorillas
grief, the guilt, and focusing on
and
gorillas.
focusing on gorillas. So when
Okay.
because when you are in grief, it's like your brain knows the pathways of, okay, I get up in the morning and then I make coffee and my partner is there, and then we go to work, and then we get back from work and we have an argument, or I can do this and then there's an argument, or it can be peaceful and we can have dinner, and it can, so your brain develops that neural pathways of this is my routine. And then grieve, with the moment you separate or get divorced, that is not there anymore. That pathway has to be reconstructed. So the grief part is, you have to realize that now you create a new routine. Now you create a new way of living. And then the guilt part is, even if you did not decide to leave the marriage and it was not your fault or my fault, or there's always a guilt. There's always something like, I should have done it differently, or I should have put more effort in. And then the focus on gorillas is, you tend to focus so much on your emotions and what is happening and the admin of it all, that your all of your energy goes into this huge thing in front of you that you do not know how to handle. So I start usually with people that just separated, or that is now, they're about a year into the process, but they still not finding their way. And then just to say, okay, we have to handle grief, we have to handle the guilt, so letting go, and then to refocus. Do not place your focus on gorillas.
I want to take a short moment to tell you about The Quest. The Quest is a transformative experience of self-inquiry that I run along with my friend Simon in the mountains in Franschhoek. It basically consists of a retreat, at the center of which lies a solo, where you spend time alone in solitude on the mountain, out in the open with only the basic necessities, whilst fasting. That means only drinking water. The entire process is designed to help you work through questions that you have. Questions like, what am I supposed to do next? Why am I here? Why am I making this decision? Why do I need to leave this behind? What do I need to leave behind? Or what do I have to pick up to move forward? It's a process that really digs deep into your motivations and helps you chart a way forward. If you are interested in joining this process, we are running the next one in October, and it is a 4-day in total quest. So 2 days of preparation, 1 24-hour solo, and then a day of integration. And if you're interested in this, please go onto my website, thisispia.co/quest, and fill in your details there. And I will invite you to a info session or have a meeting with you to discuss about why you want to go on this and whether or not this is a good fit for you. This has been one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I did my first one, a 12-day quest with a 4-day solo, about 8 years ago, and have facilitated many, many, many since. And I'm always amazed about how much this process transforms a human being. I would love to have you become a part of that circle. If this resonates with you, please reach out via my website. So if I could just recap, there's 3 things. There's like 3 things that you have to handle, or that you have to process or go through. So it's grief, guilt, and then the gorillas, right? So if you take each of those step by step, how do you get through grief? Like, what if somebody's listening and they're like, I am so sad and broken that this thing has ended, whether or not it was my decision or not my decision, what do they do?
So feel the feelings, to really feel, okay, where is this sadness? How do I feel the sadness in my body? And to sit with that sadness, to really connect with, why am I so sad about this process? And even if it's a good divorce, then it's still sad. It's still very sad. And so when I start working with people going through separation, I realized that you are so busy in your daily life that you absolutely go into flight mode and avoid your feelings so much. You work, you are busy with kids, you are busy with the admin of your divorce, and you don't just sit and be sad. Just be sad. It's okay. We live in a society where we are so forced with the idea of happiness, and that the sadness of life and going through grief, and really go, and it sits in your body, and it sits in a just a coping mechanism of survival. And that's it's so I usually start with just feeling the feelings, and then creating a new routine. How do you take your life before divorce and create new pathways so that you can live a life that you actually want, or that you can create? And so that's the first part. And it's so important to realize that you cannot go on the way you did. You cannot expect things to be the same or feel the same or just go and move. You have to sit with the grief, and you have to go through a grieving process. And we everyone knows that steps of grief that you go through, that is so valid, even in divorce, because you are losing something. And I don't believe the steps are linear, and they, first is this, then it's this. You jump between them. And
Yeah.
but to be able to realize you are now here, you are in this process of, I am depressed, feel depressed, it's okay. And then, so from there, to create a routine, and then to get a support group. And I don't mean like a divorcee group, or what I mean with a support
Like
group
an
is,
AA group,
you
but
choose,
for divorcees.
no, yeah, no, that can go into a total spiral. I always say as well, if you walk into a room, do not sit with the divorcees. Because
If you're going through a divorce, do not sit with the divorcees.
do not, especially check in with yourself. Like, where's this story going to if I tell the story? Where am I spiraling to? And if you sit in a group of divorcees or people that need advice, but you can't even give advice because you're not in a place to give advice. So don't sit with the divorcees. Go and get another crowd and spend your time there. What I mean with a support group is, I believe in choosing 5 friends, 5 people that chooses for you. So it's people that will say, you are wrong, you have to do this and this. And if you need advice, or if you need a shoulder to cry on, you know, one of these 5 people you can contact, and they will choose for you. They will not choose for themselves. And if you need advice, ask those 5 people. Don't ask everyone that you see what to do. Choose your
Yeah.
5 people. And if their
Yeah.
advice intertwines with each other or laps with each other, then you know, okay, I go with this. Because it's also a difficult time in your life to actually make decisions, and you have to make big
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's really, yeah. How would you advise somebody to make decisions in that time? So go to your friends, like your 5 friends that you've chosen. Is there any other, because obviously this show is about how do you make decisions, and then how do you make
yeah.
decisions when you go through divorce, and there's how do you where do you even start?
So I had to learn this from experience, because you get pressured into, you have to tell me now what this decision is. You have to write the letter now. And you don't. Step back. Say, if you have to make a big decision regarding your finances, or your children, or if you're going to go to maintenance court, or if you're going to go to domestic violence court, step back, sit down, feel it in your body, and you decide when you want to answer. You do not have to answer now. And if it takes you a night to sleep on it, then you can do it the next morning. And don't make decisions 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. Not a good idea. Sleep on it. See that you rested. See that you're absolutely aware and in the moment. Put your facts in front of you, and then you make your decision. Ask your 5
Yeah.
friends for support. But even if you are told, I need an answer in the next hour, you say, I'll give you an answer tomorrow morning. So, yeah.
That's really good advice. That is really good advice. Don't get pressured into making a decision right now, and give yourself time. You
No.
don't have to. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's really, I really like that. If you're talking about, so we talk about grief, and the next one is guilt. Guilt feels to me like such a heavy, because guilt, it really
Yeah.
says I did something wrong, right? That's the main thing. So how do you guide somebody through that?
I think to the thing with guilt is, you sit in a space where you look back and you are confronted by, I should have, or I did this, and now this is the repercussions of it. And to sit and to understand, maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you were not loyal to your partner, and maybe there's trust issues. But to feel that guilt and to sit with that shame of it, you're never going to move forward. So to really work with a space of forgiveness, and to forgive yourself, and to forgive the other person. And like when I went through that, really that guilt of, I should have done more, I should have tried harder, I was given the really good advice of creating a forgiveness garden.
Oh yeah, forgiveness
So,
garden.
so I chose, and the person that gave me this advice was like, choose something that really grows fast. Because you forgive a lot. Yeah, so yeah. So I
So
chose
how does a forgiveness
basil.
garden work? Oh yeah.
Okay, so you choose your plant, and it can be in a pot.
Yeah.
It can be, if you want to make a whole field of it, you can. But to to plant it, and then just to go sit there and touch it, smell it, and then just let go and forgive yourself of that absolute guilt of I should have, or I could have done it better, or to forgive the other person. And you can sit there and be angry, but sit at that plant, see it grow, but into something you wanted to grow, into forgiveness, and to heal from that. Um, I forgot this thing that I also stick by is it's a poem from Emery Hall, and it says, "Will my stories become gardens, or will it become graveyards?" And to
Oh
sit
wow.
with, that part of the guilt, and just to go into forgiving and create a garden out of this guilt and this sadness and what happened, and instead of creating a graveyard that will maybe destroy you in the end. So, and that's what
Yeah.
guilt does. It sits in your body and it destroys you, and
Yeah.
there shouldn't be a place for that. And we get raised um, with so much guilt, uh, just in the way you you have to be, and you cannot be that way because you may be too wild for it, or you are just different, and then that can really destroy you as a person. So then,
Mm.
yeah, so the second thing is the guilt, to sit and really forgive
Yeah.
and
Dealing with guilt.
to understand it's not your fault. Mm.
Okay. I think I need some forgiveness plants. It's something that grows fast, like basil.
Yeah, basil,
Yeah.
spinach, mint.
Basil. You can have like little divorce packs. You're like, these are divorce pack plants you need. You've got basil, spinach, and mint, and all the people you need to
Yeah,
forgive. You're like,
yeah, yeah,
it's included. It's
yeah.
included in your package. So good.
Included, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's really awesome. Okay,
And
now the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Now, I just want to say with the choosing herbs, in the sense is that it smells as well. So you have that sensory input of you sit and you smell, and it's all your senses that's actually aware of what is happening at the moment. So it's kind of as if your body can, um, integrate with your emotions. And it's a beautiful, beautiful tip I was given in the time that I went through it. Mm.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fantastic. I really like that. And then the last one, the gorillas. So if
Mm.
do I understand correctly that the gorillas are like all the admin that you have to do, for example, or like these big
All the
tasks or
admin.
monsters, or is it something more?
Exactly. No, it's exactly that. It is um, lawyers' letters and finances and sorting out something silly like your account, your social accounts. Um, a lot of people have got joint accounts. So you cannot be this and this um,
Yeah.
duplicity. You have to two accounts, two people. So that's the smallest part of it. But to let the
Yeah.
school know, to get a therapist for your kids, to if you have to go to maintenance court, or if you have to go to court, or if you have to go to mediation, there's a lot of paperwork that goes with it to sort out your finances and your bank accounts and who gets what. That's a huge gorilla. And the issue with that is that you start going through this, and your whole life becomes this admin of your divorce. This huge
Mm.
gorilla that you do not know when it's going to erupt, or if you did something wrong, and all that you focus on. So all your energy flows into that. So I I say, like, take a time to handle the gorilla. So schedule it. say on a Wednesday morning from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, or if you have only evenings, you schedule time in the evening and you try to make it fun. Like make a coffee, get some sweets, have your forgiveness plant there. um, play some nice music and just start at step 1, step 2, and just go through it. And I've also learned exactly how to organize the admin in such a way that it's easy. It's not that I started off with having 5 different files. Now I have one file and I've got like finances, everything is in order. You go with one file instead of a whole box if you have to go to court or if you have to handle all these gorillas. So schedule a time for it and then prioritize to know that your divorce is not a priority. It is it's something that you have to schedule as it's there. You are first, the new life you want to create, and then it's the gorilla of the admin and the divorce. And that part, a lot of times people will tell me, but I have to have this in tomorrow morning and it has to be done and this and this and this and this. And then don't put all your focus into that. Step away and schedule a time and dedicate it to that time and sit with that. And that is like the let me say it like this. You cannot handle the gorilla if you cannot handle yourself. So you have to kind of manage it in a way so that you can handle the priority of the admin and the gorilla. So refocus. Put your focus on different things and schedule your time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really good advice. It's like deep work, deep work time for the divorce admin, and don't make it your entire life. Because I can imagine that it becomes your entire life for years.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it takes long for some people to get divorced, and it's like it takes years, and it becomes your entire life, and this is all that you do and focus on.
Yeah.
That's really that's really valuable advice. I wanted to ask you, when do you ever feel that, I don't know if it's at your stage when people talk to you, but do you feel that sometimes somebody should be staying? Or would you ever tell somebody, I think you should stay? I think you're being a little bitch. I think you should stay. Or not?
No. I've never. I really try not to give advice in the sense that would determine. How can I say it? That would determine the course of your life. You make that decision. I don't give advice to that will direct the course of your life. That decision you make yourself. You decide if I want to stay or if I want to leave. What my goal is and my hope is that I would be able to support someone in a process to learn what they actually already know and how they can go through a divorce process or a separation without the extreme emotional baggage and weight that goes with that. But I won't tell someone, no, you're being a little bit.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes the most sense. It's always a tricky, I suppose, a tricky tightrope to walk. Like, when do you give advice and when do you allow people to make their own decisions? And it becomes tricky when you give advice. Like, but yeah, tell me, if we focus now on Lira a little bit, what is how did you find your way to this place? It's like, I'm going to become a divorce doula.
Last year, a friend of mine that is a life coach, she suggested, well, she has clients going through divorce and they need some advice, and would I be able to support them? And that is how it started. So that is how I got to where I am. And I must say, it's been a very fulfilling process. Yeah, I'm really, it's wonderful if you can look back at your trauma and the struggles you have been through, and you can have practical input into someone's life to help them to not carry that huge burden on their own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
So that's how I got here.
Would you say that is what is most life-giving for you out of this process?
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I think also the fact that situation is different, and to just absolutely realize that you do not have to be stuck, and you do not have to struggle, and you do not have to suffer. I think that to see that in people when I go through certain steps with them, and I can see, okay, this person is got what I'm saying and they are going to use it, and to see that how that actually helps. I think that the life, what do you call it? The life giving
Yeah.
force
What
of
what
what
was life-giving to
behind
you?
it. Yeah, definitely. I think definitely that to realize my
Yeah.
story can now, there's a purpose. I don't want to say purpose to it, but um there's something good that actually
Yeah.
came out of it. So
Wow. I think that's a fantastic place for us to wrap up. What lies ahead for Lira?
um well, I think I really aim to to create a life that um, that I want to enjoy, and that is um, fulfilling in creative. And the divorce doula is such a wonderful initiative that came over my path. I'm looking forward to just see where it can help and where it can support. And um, it's such a difficult process, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to see where it will go, and yeah, how it will help and support.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, where can people find you?
At the moment on Instagram. So let me just check my handle. Pierre met hom maar uitspreek.
Yeah, we'll
Yes, ek is
put it in the show notes.
ja, divorce doula, finding a way. So that's
Divorce
on
Dealer.
Instagram.
Divorce
Yes.
Dealer on Instagram. Okay. We'll
Yeah.
put something in the show notes as well. And then just a couple of quick
Yeah.
questions. What advice do you always give your kids?
My own kids.
Yeah,
To
your
be
own
kind.
kids, yeah.
Yeah, to be kind and to always leave a place better than you found it. And yeah, but yeah, to really be kind.
Yeah. That's really awesome. What is a book that changed your life?
Ooh, The Artist Way, Julia Cameron. I
Julia
go
Cameron,
through it
Artist
once a
Way.
year.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and
That's really cool.
yeah, I do it once a year. I take 2 months or 2 and a little bit more months off, and I just do the artist way. I don't take off from life. What I mean is like I just focus on doing the artist way. And then
Yeah.
also a Big Magic from, and what's her name? Wait, I've got it here. Elizabeth Gilbert.
Big
So
Magic from
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Gilbert,
Gilbert.
Big
Oh,
Magic.
she
Yeah,
wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
love Eat, Pray, Love. I'm such a
yeah.
girl when it comes to like relators with my
Oh,
wife. She's always like, why do you like Eat, Pray, Love so much? It's such a girly movie. I was like, it's in Italy. Leave me alone.
yeah, no, it's
That's
an
really awesome.
amazing movie.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great. I love it. What is a quote that you live by?
Ooh, can I read it?
Yeah, you can.
Can I read it to you? Mm. And yeah, I really try to do this in my life and to check myself by this quote. It came into my life a few years ago when I heard Brene Brown's talk on vulnerability on TED Talk. So it's the Theodore Roosevelt quote.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times you have to be so brave, and there's so many critics, and it absolutely resonated with me throughout my life. And I was a teacher, and I quit my job last year in April, and I went from a stable income to very unstable. What is going to happen now? And I just kept on saying this quote because there's so many critics and there's so many people that will tell you, you cannot do this. You've got kids. You've got and that goes for divorce and quitting your job. They tell you you cannot do this. You have
Oh,
kids.
yeah. You can't do
But
this. You've got kids.
yeah. But the thing is, your kids need to see your bravery, and your kids absolutely need to realize that to have courage and not stay in that comfort zone of yours. So I'm going to read the Man in the Arena. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or how the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. So that this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. And that's kind of what I live by. So courage over comfort, always.
Courage over comfort, always. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah. That's really good. Well, thank you so much, Lida, for taking the time and sharing your life story, and all the best with the work that you do, helping people through this very, very difficult transition in life. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Pierre. And thank you for the opportunity. It was lovely.
Thank you for listening or watching, and thank you for being on this journey with me as we try and figure out and find our way through the fog of life and work. So I've been writing a really short little daily letter that comes out each weekday, and literally very short. It's less than 50 words, and it is a burst of inspiration with some thoughts on strategy, how to find your way, how to become a better human being and do work that matters. You can go to thisispierre.co/daily letter to sign up and become a part of this community and hear about all the things that we get up to firsthand. Thank you for being a part.